Quarter.
Hello, my name is Patrick Starrett, and this is the second speech for my public speaking class. Today we'll be speaking about career ventures. So today, for my topic, I picked sales. So if everybody in the audience can stand up just so show attendance, just wave to the camera.
Hello.
Hello. Elsa's present as well. Okay, so my purpose here is to speak about the career field of sales and marketing. And how that kind of pursues into not just a career field, but kind of everyday life adventures, and to a certain extent, everybody at some point in their life needs to sell themselves to present themselves, whether it's for a job or a different career path or something else. No matter what you do in life, you're going to have to sell something, whether it's yourself or something else. So we'll talk about the education part of it to start out with. So one of the nice things about sales and marketing is that it's one of the degrees kind of like owning a business where you don't necessarily have to have an education to do well or go farther into this field. It'll get you a lot of jobs to start out with maybe more reputable companies that do marketing and sales, like a car dealership or somebody who sells internet like MediaCom or any jobs like that, but you don't necessarily have to have like an education in the field to go as far as you would like to in those important fields. So a lot of people who can find a business niche over at like Toyota selling cars. A lot of Toyota cars sell themselves anyway, but a lot of people who are able to talk about and communicate the product to other people, those people are able to go out and make bigger sales and move up to things like general manager or sales manager of a dealership, which can make anywhere up to $150,000, $160,000 a year, depending on where you are or what state you're in. But it's what nice about it is that it's one of the career fields you don't necessarily have to have an education in order to go to further lengths, other than examples where my father has told me, if you're an engineer, you can go out and have as much experience you want in the field and you can go and do on-site things, but they'll never pay you or respect you enough to the level as if you had the education of an engineer. They might let you do and say the same things as an engineer, but you'll never get the same pay or the same respectability in the field as somebody maybe has a master's or bachelor's degree. Those people will always be treated in the higher hierarchy. So marketing is kind of one of those cooler things where you don't necessarily have to have an education. As long as you're able to show up every day and make sales and put pen to paper and show that you're doing what you can for the company, that's all they really care about. So if you were to go out into a career of sales, one of the classes and things you'd be looking to take are some business classes, some finance, economics, macroeconomics, things where you're kind of studying the stock market and what sales looks like on paper and whatnot. And you take a public speaking class like this as well. You'll most likely, if you're depending on what if you're in an internship or what you're specifically going to college for in the marketing and sales, you might end up taking a public speaking class just to better your self-presentation to other people, which is part of the reason I'm doing it. But I just think in general it's a good idea for everybody to know how to market themselves and speak to a public group of audience and be able to communicate with other people. Okay, so this is the portion of the duties of a salesman. So depending on what you're trying to sell and who you're trying to sell to, the most common types of salesmen are people selling products and services. So like I said before, car salesmen, or when you walk into the AT&T store, they're always trying to sell you the upper service or a bigger phone. If you have to go and figure out something with your insurance, they'll most likely sell you on the upper premium plan, or the more gigabytes for MediaCom for a higher internet speed. They're always going to have to deal with some kind of salesman. So those are always the more common career path of salesmen. There's some other people like to venture off into bigger things, like people who, for example, my dad who worked at SRS. I assume there's people in salesmen, and they were trying to sell them bigger equipment, bigger manufacturing things and bigger services to provide for SRS and things like that. So there's a little bit of marketing and sales involved in a little bit of everything. Like I said, but whether that's yourself or services or anything that you're doing, you're going to be most likely running into some kind of sales with no matter what kind of career that you're into. So the average earning for a salesman, depending on what you're doing, you're most likely going to be looking from anywhere from $50,000 a year to maybe about $160,000 a year, depending on what you're doing and how high you go. If you're just a basic level sales carsman, you might be making out to like $50,000 to $60,000 a year. But if you're a genuinely good car salesman and you can maybe work your way up into the management portion of your sales rep, you can make anywhere up to $160,000. And that also could depend on what kind of cars you're selling. A lot of luxury car brand sales managers can make upwards of $30,000 to $40,000, $300,000 to $400,000. So something to think about. I think those are good numbers, but the one thing that a lot of people don't like about the routine of salesmen is that if you're commission based, you're not guaranteed a paycheck every single day. You're not guaranteed to walk into your office and come back and saying, okay, I worked this many hours, I put in this much work, I come home with this amount of money. A lot of sales jobs aren't like that. They're either commission based or they're sales and hourly commission based. So if you're a salesman and you go to work and you come back and you don't sell a car, depending on whether you made an appointment with somebody to look at a car, you might get paid, or if you did any other little services. But if you didn't sell a car that day or that week or that month, you might be in a little bit of a pit. So that's the kind of thing that people don't like about being a salesman, is that you don't have a guaranteed paycheck every time you come home. But the new things about this career field is that a lot of things like the internet are changing the world of sales. So if we're looking back in the world of cars, Carvana is a huge thing, the car vending machine. You can go online and buy a car and it can be shipped to your house in 2 to 3 days. So it kind of cuts out the information of a middleman, because you just have to go online. You can look at a Google review of a car, they'll tell you all the information you need to know, and look up on Google or YouTube, is this a good car to buy? And it kind of cuts out the service of a middleman. It kind of just deciding for yourself with the information that you have. So, but other than that, other e-commerce like Amazon or eBay or things like that, they're cutting out the middleman of, you don't need a salesman. You just need to know what you want and look at the product and just the details of it and decide if if it fits your fancy in life. So a lot of e-commerce sites and kind of the online world has changed a little bit of the world of sales, but no matter what you do, you're always going to have a salesman to some extent or form to sell you something. A lot of people are more so individual, person-to-person people when they want to go figure out what they want or what they want to buy. They're not always going to want to go look at the computer and decide that that's who they want to talk to decide to buy a product. So in conclusion, at some point, everybody's going to have to pitch their own ideas to somebody at some point. So you might not be selling yourself a product to somebody, but you have to be selling the self of your idea. I mean, that's what an interview is you selling the idea of yourself and your capabilities for a company to take a chance on you at a job. Salesman. But yeah, if you're ever in the market, think you have good people skills, you feel like you're more of an extrovert person, and you're able to greatly talk to people, then I highly recommend that you look into the area of sales. Thank you for looking at my presentation.
Okay, Pat, good.